Hi, everyone. Harry here to talk about the ethics report about Matt Gaetz and the so-called renewed debate about why the feds didn't bring charges. So first things first, the idea which Gaetz has deployed from the beginning that he was quote unquote exonerated by the DOJ. So he didn't do any of the things in the ethics report. And are you telling me that Merrick Garland is lying? That was his sort of rhetorical chest beating gambit. Is completely bogus, as any prosecutor will tell you, or it's just common sense. All kinds of reasons that the department doesn't bring charges in a case that do not by any means but follow that the person hasn't done the deed. Often, in fact, you're pretty sure they have, but there are other things to consider. Second, there are different charges that the feds were thinking about are really a specific charge. So to lay it out briefly, it is against the law, technically on the books, to travel for the purpose of prostitution. So since the ethics report found all this prostitution activity, women paid either in kind or in cash to go on these trips where there was group sex, etc. That would state a case technically under the so-called Mann Act, but not one that the DOJ would ever bring. Maybe it's something you would consider for the fitness of somebody nominated to be, say, Attorney General, that they're, having this kind of activity, prostitution, but also group stuff involved with drugs, etc. But that's the DOJ wouldn't do that unless there's real coercion involved. That is, you've basically got a sex slave that you're transporting, etc. That could give rise to charges. But in a situation like that, sex for money, but all the women testifying it's voluntary, that wouldn't be a Mann Act case. What would be a federal charge and something that the ethics report couldn't substantiate is if a minor's involved, and then the DOJ does seem to have uncovered proof that one of the women whom he traveled with was, at least one was a minor. There's one who supposedly was at the end of her junior year. And in the ethics report, they have Gaetz having sex with her in front of other people. So that could be the thing that the DOJ was looking at, or it could involve another 17-year-old girl. With respect to the first, the committee does say we didn't have evidence that Gaetz knew at the time. He actually apparently did find out, and then law-abiding gentleman that he is, just stopped having sex with her for a few months until she turned 18. But for the state crimes, that would be statutory rape under Florida law. You don't have to know that somebody is under 18. But back again to the feds, there's a strict liability element to the age part. So it wouldn't be that would have defeated a charge of traveling in interstate commerce to basically what would be called colorfully child sex trafficking, but meaning in the federal language, you travel in interstate commerce for the purpose of sex with a minor. But the reports were that the minor was no longer a minor, of course. It had been a few years ago. I think this one might have been in 2017, was just not strong as a witness. They were going to have to build the case on her, and she just apparently didn't have a story that was solid and consistent, and they just looked at her and how she would be on the witness stand and thought, I don't think we have this here. And that's a totally valid reason not to bring a prosecution of somebody you think is guilty, because under the rules of the U.S. Attorney Manual, you have to believe that a conviction is probable. And if somebody is guilty but a conviction isn't probable for whatever reason, you can't bring that case. Now, an important point here is that, and this is reaffirmed in the aftermath of the Gaetz report, is that all the decisions were made by career folks in a U.S. attorney's office. So there's no suggestion of wanting to go hard on Gaetz or wanting to go easy on Gaetz based on, naked political and partisan concerns. Of course, Gaetz is one of those who think that career people in DOJ are deep state and just after him for political reasons and the like. But, more sober, experienced, and rational folks could tell you, and I'm one of them, no, it wouldn't have been like that. They'd have really looked at, could we make the case? Now, it's completely consistent. I mean, the ethics committee charges, they're looking at all this drug use, which is an issue for an AG nominee or somebody in Congress, perhaps. They're looking at the flamboyance of it. He's showing pictures on the floor. They're looking at kind of everything. And the DOJ is looking very narrowly at, okay, can we show that they then cross state lines? And how do we show this part and that part? And what can we do that we have to have the 17-year-old victim to testify to? And, they gave it a hard look. It was, he was sort of dangling there for a fair bit of time until they announced that they weren't going to do it. But the main thing to underscore, professional process based on evidence, based on the criteria that you apply as prosecutors. So although it's a kind of natural thing, God, this is so tawdry and it's such a indictment in the colloquial term of Gaetz. Why didn't the DOJ go for it? It's because they were doing a fundamentally different thing, even on the facts, I think, depending on whether there's one or two 17-year-olds. But in any event, not trying to find out by a preponderance. I mean, I think it's likely that if DOJ is not supposed to reach this kind of conclusion, but if people who investigated said, do you think this happened? They would probably say yes, or they wouldn't have pursued it as far as they did. Well, so why aren't you bringing the case? We can't say it's probable because we have some problems with the testimony of our main witness. Happens every day that the DOJ uses its prosecutorial discretion not to bring a case. Plenty of cases out there, and you've got to be fair and consistent. Same reason why you wouldn't jump on the adult cases under the Mann Act, as I said. They could have done that. That's essentially what happened with Hunter Biden, not the Mann Act itself, but bringing a case where they normally wouldn't in the DOJ. But that's because there's a special counsel there. That's one of the problems, a big problem with the Hunter Biden case. Here, we don't bring those kinds of cases. That's our general prosecutorial policy. So let's put that to the side. Can we make this one case of minor sex trafficking? And they looked at it really hard, said no, for reasons that basically have nothing to do with all the allegations. And I would say more than allegations, I guess, all the documentation of some pretty serious activity in the aggregate that would bear heavily on somebody's fitness to be attorney general, especially if they've claimed none of it ever happened, because that's a possibility of blackmail by people who know that it did. And then you just have to consider this kind of person as the head of the Department of Justice, and it's not a beyond a reasonable doubt thing. It's, how will this mar his effectiveness? What would it be like for attorneys serving under him who knowing that he could never get a background clearance, women serving under him, knowing all these charges about how he's treated young women and the like. So different questions and different conduct. That's the answer for why the DOJ didn't bring charges, notwithstanding all the serious things that the Ethics Committee found by a preponderance of the evidence had occurred with Gaetz. I don't see the DOJ case opening up again. I do see this as being a continuing sort of political black eye, depending on where Gaetz wants to go. He brazenly said they did it on Christmas Eve, so I couldn't answer it rather than being in a court, like he would like to be in a court to answer these charges. So if he runs for governor or whatever, the Ethics Committee stays alive, but the federal charges have come and gone for totally different reasons. Talk to you later. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video and other Talking Feds content, please take a second to like and subscribe. Talk to you later.